Aside from just the revelations that Pete Hegseth has been sharing incredibly specific classified war plan information with his wife, his brother, and some lawyer he knows, there's even more turmoil at the top ranks of the DoD. 3 top aides of the Pentagon were placed on leave following the news that the Defense Secretary's own chief of staff, Joe Casper, will be leaving his role for a new position in the department. That probably seems suspicious, but I think most chief of staff only last about 22 days or so. So I'm not too worried about that. Look, this is just utter chaos. And who could be surprised by this? He wasn't qualified for the position, as we'll talk more about. But Deputy Chief of Staff Darin Selnick, Senior Advisor Dan Caldwell, and the Chief of Staff Stephen Feinberg, Colin Carroll, were placed on leave as part of an ongoing probe into agency leaks. So there's already going to be lawsuits, multiple people being fired just a couple months into this entire thing. A top Pentagon official released this piece. Former top Pentagon spokesperson details, quote, month from hell inside the agency. Jayar had been referencing earlier on the show about this gentleman. We'll tell you about him. He is not some like Biden loyalist who like hung on and now he's being weeded out. He is former chief Pentagon spokesman, led communications of the National Security Council and the Department of Veteran Affairs in Donald Trump's first term. So he's been loyal to Trump longer than Hegseth has been. He was a senior communications advisor on Trump's 2016 campaign. And here is what he has had to say. This is coming out of the first round of Signalgate allegations. Once the story broke, Hegseth followed horrible crisis communications advice from his new public affairs team, who somehow convinced him to try to debunk the reporting through a vague Clinton-esque non-denial denial that, quote, nobody was texting war plans. This was a violation of PR rule number 1, get the bad news out right away. And he was right there. Because Hegseth denied it, the Atlantic reporter released the specific news, and it turned out no, he was actually revealing incredibly specific war plans. So Hegseth dragged it out by lying. Again, he's not good at this stuff. And then the piece continues, that was just the beginning of the month from hell. The Wall Street Journal and other outlets reported that Hegseth brought his wife, a former Fox News producer, to 2 meetings with foreign military counterparts where sensitive information was discussed. Next, the Pentagon set up a top secret briefing by the Joint Chiefs of Staff on China for Elon Musk, who still has extensive business interests in China. After learning about it, the White House canceled that meeting. Trump, apparently we now find out, was enraged by this, didn't understand why this meeting was happening. And the piece concludes, there are very likely more shoes to drop in short order, with even bigger bombshell stories coming this week. Key Pentagon reporters have been telling sources privately. The president deserves better than the current, I don't even know what that is at the Pentagon. Given his record of holding prior cabinet leaders accountable, many in the secretary's own inner circle will applaud quietly if Trump chooses to do the same in short order at the top of the Defense Department. And I don't know that he's likely to get rid of him. He does like him. He thinks that he has the right look. He watched him on TV for years. That seems to be Trump's entire capacity for choosing people. But we said from the beginning that Hegseth is not just an issue because of his ideological issues. The fact that he was quoted as saying, let's kill all the Muslims, or the fact that in his book, he talks about how awesome it would be if the IDF were to invade America to round up liberals or whatever. All of that's really bad. And the drunkenness and all that appears to continue to today, as well as the sexual assault allegations, all of that is worrying. The bigger issue in terms of this, though, is that he has no qualifications to manage one of the biggest bureaucracies in the entire world. He doesn't have the skill, he doesn't have the temperament, he doesn't have any of that stuff. And so, hey, what do you know? It's all falling apart around him, JR. Shocking stuff.
Not at all. I mean, obviously, look, this guy, even in that op-ed, was talking about how much he's loyal to the president, how he loves the whole approach that Pete Hegseth likes to say. He wasn't just a supporter of Donald Trump, he's also a supporter of Pete Hegseth. And he said Donald Trump doesn't deserve this kind of chaos within the Department of Defense. So it's not like he's outside the bounds. He was offered a higher up position and he turned it down because he's like, listen, bro, I appreciate it, but I can't take it because I can't be a part of this chaos. And by the way, John, it's the Mishigas. It's Yiddish.
Yeah,
like
people in the
chaotic
chat have been telling me.
activity.
I wasn't familiar with it, but
Yeah,
thank you,
I was working on this story earlier, so I had to run through all that too. I had to look it up. Don't worry, I had no idea.
I like to learn new stuff. Thank you.
I almost didn't want to say it because you never know what's offensive. So I had to find out what it was I was talking about. But no. So this guy specifically talked about, he said the similar things that Pete Hegseth likes to say, like, we're gonna give it back to the war fighters. He said there's been some actual advances and successes within this Department of Defense already. He just can't take it anymore because of the level of chaos that's going on. The guy doesn't know what he's doing. Yo, back when he worked with that charity, the one charitable group of the defense of veterans, and he was put on blast for that when he was in his confirmation hearings. Yo, they supported him there too. It's not like he's been surrounded by people who hate him. He's surrounded by people who like him. He's surrounded by people who think just like him, but they see him and his absolute chaotic approach to anything, and they're like, this doesn't work. The people at Fox News that talked about how he drank all the time, it's not because they hated him, it's because he drank all the time. It's just they're speaking the facts of what's going on. They don't dislike him. They just think they're not gonna get their conservative approaches and their agendas across with a guy like this. So everything isn't, everybody's against me, but that's the only play they've got. We might wanna start recognizing that.
Yeah, this is all just insane. Like, this is the chaos we're gonna have. I mean, the only thing that I think is gonna save some of the many people that have been just plucked from Fox News to head up the bureaucracy, that's gonna make it a little bit easier for them, is there's not much of the bureaucracy remaining because our government has been sold off. I suppose that makes things a little bit easier for them to manage this, but this is a mess and this is chaos and this is not some tiny thing. Like, even if you're a conservative, even if you're MAGA, I know you're not gonna listen to any of the reporting. As soon as someone reveals the dark truth, you're gonna assume that they were never loyal, even though they were more loyal than Pete Hegseth himself. But this is the Department of Defense. We cannot have an incompetent drunk just ruining things. Like, you lose most of your aides and advisors 2 months in. I just want you to try. I know that you're not, again, predisposed to do this sort of thing. Imagine if you saw this under Joe Biden. If you saw this sort of turnover, if you saw a bunch of people who had been working there for years and years who were like, I have to leak about this. This is just too crazy. This is too dangerous. What's happening is unprecedented. I don't care if my career is done. I have to reveal this. Imagine how Fox News would have responded to that if that had happened under Joe Biden. But instead it's happening under Trump, so don't worry about it. Just move that aside, not a story, forget about it. Let's just talk about how eggs are 10 cents each or whatever.
One small thing about that last thing, John. So we talk about Joe Biden and his son. Oh my God, the interactions between the two of them and how this was leaned on for maybe business purposes and the overseas and foreign entities could be intercepting and talking about it and using him. If you're really concerned about all that stuff, if you're really concerned about Joe Biden and his son, you're not concerned about Pete Hegseth and his wife and his brother and his personal attorney.
Yep.
Why are you okay with all those folks? Why are you okay with that kind of familial interactions about these types of things? Why isn't this a national security risk? Why are you no longer afraid for your life when the things are very obvious where these things could be intercepted? Bro, it's just ask those very simple questions to the people who keep telling you that this is night and day. It's the same thing they should be worried about, but they're just too partisan to admit it.
If you enjoyed that, then make sure that you never miss another video by subscribing. And if you want a little more, consider hitting the join button and becoming a member. So you're probably wondering, why would I do that? Well, when you do that, you get access to bonus content that I make every single week, and it's a lot of fun. You get custom emojis and more. If you join at tier 3, by the way, you even get access to a monthly member hangout with myself. And you'll get all that going forward, but you'll also unlock years of the back catalog that is literally 100 or more bonus clips and top 10 lists and debates and more. So what are you waiting for?